Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. We are in the third week of Ramadan, and I'm your host, Muqtadar Khan. And as part of the Ramadan special, I'm doing a series of books that I considered are classics from Islamic civilization. In the past 2 weeks, I have covered Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddimah and Ibn Rushd's Fasl al-Maqal. I'm very heartened to see the response. They have been viewed more than my average views for my show. So thank you very much for watching and supporting conversations. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and make sure that you share this video with your friends, because not many people are talking about this book that I will talk about today. And I'm surprised as to why, because it is such an incredible book. It's actually a novel written sometime in the 12th century by an Andalusian philosopher called Ibn Tufayl. And Ibn Tufayl, incidentally, happens to be the teacher of Ibn Rushd, the author, or Averroes, as he is known in the West, the author of Fasl al-Maqal, the book that we covered last week. So today, I'm going to talk to you about this book. It's called Hayy Ibn Yaqzan. The literal translation of Hayy Ibn Yaqzan is alive, son of the awake. I like to translate it as simply as the life of Hayy, but it actually means Hayy is alive and his son of awake. Obviously, Ibn Tufayl wanted to attach some metaphorical meaning to the terms, but a few centuries before, the famous Central Asian Islamic doctor, philosopher, and mystic Ibn Sina, who's also known very well in the West as Avicenna. Ibn Sina had written a trilogy of novels, and the first one was called Hayy Ibn Yaqzan. I have not read the first one by Ibn Sina, but commentators on this book, Hayy Ibn Yaqzan, by Ibn Tufayl, say that the story was very different. The issues that Ibn Sina was addressing were quite different from the ones that Ibn Tufayl was addressing. So, first of all, who was Ibn Tufayl? Ibn Tufayl was a philosopher, a doctor, and he was in the court of the caliphs of Andalusia, the Islamic Spain. He was in Cordoba most of the time. He was with Abu Yaqub Yusuf, the caliph who later on also patronized Ibn Rushd. He was the teacher of Ibn Rushd, and he introduced Ibn Rushd to the caliph of the Almohad dynasty in Andalusia. Not much is available about Ibn Tufayl's writing, except this book, Hayy Ibn Yaqzan. I found this book called Falsafa al-Ibn Tufayl, and for those of you who are Arabic readers, you can buy this. This is like an annotated bibliography of his work, or the kind of things that were philosophically interesting to him and the stuff that he wrote about. But there are apparently many copies and translations of Hayy Ibn Yaqzan. I have three, and two of them are here. You can see them. These are quite inexpensive ones. I'm recommending this. This costs like $6-7 on Amazon, and I think all young people should read it at least, and also older people, because there are some interesting discussions, and I'll summarize some of his arguments that he makes in the book and tell you the story of Hayy Ibn Yaqzan. This book is very fascinating because it is the third most translated Arabic book into various other languages, especially European languages. So the first book that is translated in nearly all languages now is obviously the Holy Quran, and the second one is 1001 Nights. And so the third one, which is translated more, is Hayy Ibn Yaqzan. So there are, over a period of 500 years, Islamic philosophers have addressed this concept of talking about learning, about knowledge, about epistemology, about philosophy, the importance of philosophy and the relevance of philosophy in essentially fictional form by talking about an imaginary person and how that person becomes alive to his or her reality by telling a story. So there was someone else who wrote a book about someone as the perfect person who followed Ibn Tufayl by a couple of hundred years. But the religious message that he was trying to send was quite different from Ibn Tufayl's. So what is the story of Hayy Ibn Yaqzan? So Hayy Ibn Yaqzan is a person who was, according to Ibn Tufayl, either born on an island somewhere in the Indian Ocean or he was left there like Moses. And he grows up alone on this completely isolated island. Fortunately for him, there are no predatory animals on that, and there is an antelope that feeds him and takes care of him. And so he grows up. And so Ibn Tufayl tells the story of how over a period of 50 years or 49 years in shall we say, intervals of 7 years each, how Ibn Tufayl essentially, how Hayy grows and learns. So he argues that in the first 7 years, Hayy begins to notice the difference between him and his mother and other animals with whom he got an opportunity to socialize. And the awareness dawns upon him that he's different from all of them. I mean, the difference is highlighted in his weakness. He's not able to run as fast as others. He's not able to defend himself as others can. And unlike him, others apparently had natural weapons. They had beaks and they had claws and they had nails and they were strong. So Ibn Tufayl, in realizing his weakness, also begins to become self-aware as to how he is different. So the first 7 years are essentially learning of the fact that he is weak and he's different and he's also unarmed, unlike others. And then subsequently, the second period is a period of empowerment in which he learns to make weapons, learns to make clothes for himself, and then realizes that these clothes that he was basically making from the skins of other animals, etc., gave him power, and he was able to scare away other animals, etc. So the second phase is of empowerment, and then the third phase is his life when his mother dies, is one of the most profoundest periods of learning. And in this, Ibn Tufayl uses his medical knowledge to tell us how essentially Hayy performs an autopsy on his mother to understand why she stopped moving and why she died. And he learns a lot of things. He realizes that there must be something at the core of the body that controls the rest of the body and makes the body function. And when this core is destroyed or this critical organ in the body is hurt, it will completely undermine the body. And he realizes that through self-awareness of his own heart. And he notices that every time he would get into a conflict or a fight, he would try and protect himself and the special organ of his body in his encounters with other animals. So he cuts his mother open, looks through the layers, finds the heart, and then finds that one heart is full of blood, and I mean, one of the cavities in the heart is filled with blood and the other is not. And so he realizes that the essence of his mother, the soul or the life, resided in that part of the heart. And so it must have escaped and left the body, and so he begins to realize that his mother was not this body, but something other than that body, which is unbelievable. So in that sense, he discovers the soul and believes that the soul has left the body. And so there's this complicated philosophical argument where eventually Hayy reaches the knowledge that that Aristotle and later Ibn Rushd tried to talk about when they talk about the active intellect, saying that there's only one human consciousness, and that human consciousness is achieved by some kind of soul or the mind or the human intellect. And so while there are human particularities and bodies, there are many human bodies, there's only one active intellect. And so Ibn Tufayl makes this argument. Now, this manner of this autodidact character of Hayy, as he learns by himself, was highly appreciated in the West. And so a lot of Western commentators uh, understood this novel as one that advocated reason over anything else, and the capacity of human being to learn about the truth through empiricism and reason. Whereas Hayy was translated into English in 1708, I think, several decades or a couple of decades before Daniel Defoe wrote Robinson Crusoe, which kind of mimics Hayy Ibn Yaqzan in its anguish. But nevertheless, the fourth 20 part of his life, from 35 to 42, he starts thinking of things which are more in the abstract. After he understands that there is something abstract to existence, like the soul, as different from the body, Hayy then begins to look at the universe, look at the creation. He looks at the stars, etc., and begins to look at things that are out there. And so he makes the Aristotelian argument that these are causes, and so there must have been an effect or something that must have caused this. And so he reaches the definition of God that Aristotle advanced, that God is essentially the first cause, or the cause without a cause, and everything else is caused by this cause without a cause. So Hayy is talking, eventually reaches that point philosophically, where he understands that this entire universe must have a creator. And so he discovers God by way of reason. But the last phase is more fascinating, where Hayy realizes that since there is a creator, he must worship this creator. And so if you listen to the arguments that Ibn Tufayl is making, they are not philosophical. They are quite unlike those made by philosophies. It is more like reading Ibn Arabi or the Sufis. And so ultimately, Hayy becomes mystical. He becomes a vegetarian and tries to live a life of restraint and peace. Hayy now begins to want to connect to this creator. And so in his quest for the creator, he actually develops rituals by which he expresses his admiration and worship and love for God. And it is very interesting that in this context, Ibn Tufayl, in this part of life where Hayy is now in a state of ecstasy and happiness that he has discovered his creator, not just discovered that there is a creator, but has discovered a way to connect with this creator. So through his becoming a vegetarian, through his worships, through his other rituals. So there is a famous hadith of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that Ibn Tufayl quotes verbatim, in which this is how the hadith goes. Abu Huraira reports that the Prophet ﷺ said, I have prayed, says that God said that I have prepared for my pious servants, which the eye has not and has seen, and the ear has not heard, and no human heart has ever perceived such bounties, and no human mind has been able to conceive of that. And so he recites, it also is based on a Quranic verse that you can see I'm citing, no soul knows what comfort has been hidden for them. So the idea that God has created some special pleasures or sources of joy and happiness and ecstasy for those who worship him and believe in him, and they are things which are beyond human imagination. They are not like anything that we have seen or heard or our heart perceived or desired. So that is what a standard for Sufi definition of fana is. to become one with God. So basically, there are two steps. In the first step, he's becoming one with the active intellect as the philosophers perceive, but there is a stage beyond that of the philosophers, and that is of the mystic, the Sufi, who then connects with God and experiences the joys that God has reserved for their best pious. So this is the story of Hayy, initially, which is what is often understood, but there is an epilogue to this story. And basically, you could say that Hayy Ibn Yaqzan is not just the story of Hayy, but the story of, say, two islands. So there's another island on which there is a particular sect, which is very pious, which has very strong social norms, which believes in the divine law, is very good with strangers and others. And one of their residents realizes that the law, and obviously this is referring to the Sharia, but the law also advocates that the individuals isolate themselves from society and pursue a higher connection with God. So one of them, called Afzal, leaves that island and comes to the island where Hayy is. There he meets with Hayy and teaches Hayy language. Until now, Hayy did not know another human being. And there are interesting ways in which Ibn Tufayl describes Hay's struggle to recognize Afzal as another human being, and recognizing that, oh my God, there's another being that is exactly like me in terms of form. Anyway, so Afzal teaches Hayy language and then starts teaching him the law and all the wisdom and everything that he had learned from the Quran and from the Islamic law. Hayy says, I know. I already knows these truths, and Hayy confirms that he had reached that. So Afzal is initially very surprised that this person has reached that stage which he himself is aspiring for, where knowledge is present to him. So Hayy has knowledge without the revelation that is necessary to reach this knowledge. So some people have taken this part of the narration to argue that this is a precursor to Ibn Rushd's double truth theory, or two sources, that both reason and revelation will reach ultimately the same truth. So basically, the end goal is God, and you can reach God either through philosophy and the active intellect, or you can reach God through revealed knowledge that is coming from Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and other divine revelations, like even the Bhagavad Gita. So God reveals these truths to human beings, and so that's how they connect with the divine. And the other way is just through the rational, through the reason, through empirical, through science, and through observation and interpretation of reality. So either you read literally the signs of God that are revealed, or read the signs of God that are there in the creation, as Sir Syed Ahmed says in India later on, that God has written two Qurans. One is a holy book, and the other is the creation. And the signs of God and the work of God, or the speech of God and the work of God, cannot contradict, and therefore the knowledge that we acquire from science is not going to contradict the knowledge that we acquire from religion. But anyway, Hayy then follows Afzal back to his island and tries to preach to the people of the island, who are quite happy and content in their norms and in the law. They're law-abiding people who respect each other, who like each other, and they have cordial. So even though they are irritated by Hayy's preaching, they reject him. They are kind of repelled by what he considers is the ultimate truth. And Hayy thinks of them as incapable of learning. He's quite disappointed, and then so they amicably disagree. They agree to disagree, and so Hayy returns to his own island with Afzal, and they live there in ecstasy, in worshiping God, and they die. So this is the story, and there are some typical things that you can take from here. The argument from Ibn Tufayl that truth, the essential truth, existential truths, can be acquired through reason. You can discover God without having to take recourse to a formal religion or institutionalized religion, or also via revealed text. What is also interesting is that, like all philosophers, Ibn Tufayl also accepts the hierarchy, an ontological hierarchy, saying some people are capable of acquiring a higher status and others are incapable of reaching it. So the truths that are available to philosophers and the ecstasy and the divine connection that is available to the mystic, to the Sufi, that is not available to ordinary people. They cannot appreciate it, they cannot recognize it, and they find it repellent. It is also interesting that in this era in America, when we talk about wokeism, the idea that Hayy is basically alive, the son of the awakened or the son of the woke, makes interesting sense. There are lots of other interesting commentary that I want to give. One of the point is that Hayy Ibn Yaqzan's achievements, both mystical and philosophical, are without society. And his intellectual achievements are without language. So it raises the question, can we think without language? I don't know. I know that I can think in multiple languages. Sometimes when I'm trying to confront a philosophical problem, I find that thinking in a different language like Urdu or Hindi or even Arabic, sometimes the words that are available to me in those languages make me understand a situation very differently from, say, in English, because certain words are not there in the English language. So I don't know how Ibn Tufayl thought Hayy Ibn Yaqzan was able to think without language. That is one question, but he assumes that not only can one think, but can also reach fundamental truths and then be able to recognize it when you have learned a language. So he is able to put in words later, once he absolutely teaches him language, the thoughts that he had. So he had a memory of his knowledge, his memory of his becoming awake to certain realities, existential realities, and he was able to store that without the help of language, which is very interesting. And in these days of cognitive sciences and neurosciences, it would be an interesting puzzle to test empirically. And of course, the idea that without society, without other human beings, without communication with other human beings, without ideology, without a state, how in the state of nature can all these truths be found? Is a society necessary for us to realize good life and happiness? He's questioning that. I mean, he's showing that both is possible. So there's an island where there is society, there is law, there is state, there is a king called Salman who is wise, and people are law-abiding and happy. And then he's talking about an island where there is none of that. And there's a man alone who is also able to even reach a higher level of intelligence, higher level of awakenedness to mystical truths and to celestial truths and divine mysteries, and also be happy at the same time. What is interesting to me is that ultimately the goal seems to be to achieve a profound sense of happiness which is not just satisfaction through materialism, but also through awakeness of your mystical and your philosophical faculties. So this is the story of Hayy Ibn Yaqzan. I think it is a brilliant book, especially since it was written in the 12th century, probably around 1170, 1160. And it is obviously anchored in the arguments of that time about the role of philosophy, the role of science, and the fact that, like his student Ibn Rushd, Ibn Tufayl was also a doctor. So to them, this epistemology is not just philosophical, rational as we think today, but also scientific. So he's both Aristotelian as well as Neoplatonic. But he's also a Sufi, so he's more like Ibn Sina than Ibn Rushd. And so you see basically here three epistemologies at work. One epistemology is on that island where all truths and rules and laws are revealed by God. So they are getting a blueprint for happiness, both societal and individual. So knowledge is coming through revelation. And then you have Hayy, who is demonstrating that capacity for learning the truth first through empirical observation, like a scientist. And then once you start searching for non-empirical and reflecting on metaphysical issues, he starts thinking like a philosopher. So you have a rational philosophy, rational epistemology here. And then he reaches the higher stage where knowledge is coming by presence and connection with the divine. There is another tradition where Sufis say that once you reach a certain level of proximity to God, God sees through your eyes and God acts through your hands. So there is an awareness and a knowledge that is available to Sufis that is not available to ordinary people by any other epistemological means. So I think all the books that are easily accessible, Hayy Ibn Yaqzan it is not very expensive. It is easy to read. Try to find even Goodman's translation. It is one of the better ones. Hope you are having a good Ramadan and you are able to achieve some of the things that Hayy was able to achieve. So until I do next week, when I do another classic book from Islamic civilization, take care, be happy. Don't forget to subscribe to Conversation, like this video, press the bell icon, and also share it with your friends and socio-political network. I'm your host, Muqtadar Khan.